Tom Trento is a leading academic activist in the United States, a skilled debater, and a dynamic speaker who's done incredible work. He has degrees in law enforcement, philosophy, and theology. He's the co-author of Shariah, The Threat to America. He's the founder and president of the not-for-profit, the United West. Raise your hand if you support the United West. All right, so visit United West online and learn more about Tom's work, and he thanks you for the support. The title of Tom's talk today, a most important topic, is Death of Israel, Death of the West. Please let Tom know how much you appreciate all he does. Please welcome Tom Trento.
Always love coming back here and being with the Chens, who do a remarkable job. I mean, give them another hand. I mean, they're really remarkable. But as you're going to see a little later when our featured speaker comes on, we're going to show you a little bit of video that our United West team, Mark, I think you know Mark Campbell, some of you, many of you, and Barry's over there on the other camera. But in 2012, in February, we were in Israel and asked to go to Sheba Hospital to interview someone. He's going to speak here a little later, and we'll show you a couple of minutes of a video we did. And a little earlier, about an hour ago, was the first time that we have met since that February in 2012. And we followed very closely our featured speaker. And just an amazing story. So it was one of the most memorable times of my life. And you'll see a little later when we show you the video. And to meet my brother, that gentleman here today for the first time in 7 years, is simply amazing. But we have New York people in here, I'm sure. And they're going through depression because their mayor has dropped out of the race. Can you believe that? You gotta love Donald J. Trump. Listen to this tweet. Yes. Too loud? Yeah, I know. I'm always loud. You know, sometimes you got to be loud in this world and make some noise. All right, listen to Donald Trump's tweet. Oh no, really big political news. Perhaps the biggest story in years. Part-time mayor of New York City, Bill de Blasio, was polling at a solid 0, but had tremendous room for growth. Shockingly, he's dropped out of the presidential race. New York City is devastated. He's coming home. I don't know who writes this stuff for Trump, if he does or not, but it's fabulous. It's got some fabulous material. All right, Dr. Elliott laid a philosophical groundwork for the superiority of capitalism over any other political economic structure. And we're going to have fun today, obviously, and you'll meet new people. But there's some serious material we're pushing out here. So I'm viewing this not as a motivational speech, which I do a lot of, or a debate. This is a classroom. This is a university-level classroom. So I'm going to go through material, take notes. It's being taped so that you can watch this at a later point. But the bottom line, at the end of the day, you leave here, you realize we are in an absolute basic battle between good and evil. Yeah. It's that simple. That's it. JFK, when he was the president, the issues were not whether or not there should be a military, not whether or not there should be gasoline. It was a process as to how to have the best way to have gasoline or a military. The world has changed dramatically. And the globe has gotten smaller. And this tiny little country, 7,000 miles away, and I'll reduce it to 49 square miles. The little city of Jerusalem has become the geopolitical center of the universe in an apocalyptic battle between the forces of good and evil, Islam and the Judeo-Christian worldview, as Kirk was laying out earlier. That's the battle. Ironically, not ironically, purposely, we go to Israel several times a year. Some of the folks from our May trip are in here. Who was with us on the May trips? Raise your hand. Carl, Donna, you guys over here, over there. Look at that. Everybody's a good group of people. If you want to come to Israel, we'll lay some material out. You got to come with us. We do amazing stuff. And I'm going to focus on the death of Israel is the death of the West. And, you just got to look in the newspaper and you'll see these kinds of protests all over the place. For world peace, Israel must be destroyed. There are countries saying this. And the United Nations turns a blind eye. What happens in Israel happens to the West. Here's why. Israel, very important point. Israel is the eastern front of Western civilization. The eastern front of Western civilization. There's the globe. If you look on the blue on the left, the top left, you got North America and then Europe. And in there, you'll see the tiny little country of Israel. I got a pointer over here. The tiny little country of Israel, right by Saudi Arabia, and that's obviously to the east. Everything's to the west. But in terms of what the West means, and this is what the West means. When you talk about Western civilization, you're talking about a worldview. There are 4 pillars that essentially comprise that which we call Western civilization. And the first is Greek philosophy, about 400 years of that. And then Rome came in, 500 years of that. Then the the Hebrew Bible, the Christian Bible, about 4,000, 5,000 years spanning over history. And the concept of modern science, 400 or 500 years of that. You put all of this together, and you have a particular way in which you view the world, or a Weltanschauung, German fancy word, a world view, the way in which you view the world. Kirk had some great information on that earlier. But I like to simplify it and envision wearing a pair of glasses. A worldview is very, very similar to a pair of glasses. And if you have a prescription pair of glasses, you are limited by the prescription you have, the way in which it allows you to see the world. And essentially, if you take all of the teaching of the Greeks, where we got philosophy, and the Romans, where we got law, and the Judeo-Christian worldview, where we get a basis of the imago Dei, the image of God and man, very unique, and modern science that was below philosophy. Theology was the queen of the sciences, and science was subservient to theology, and they joined together. When you bring all these together, you mix them up, you can get a basic belief in life, the 10 Commandments. I do about a 3-hour presentation on tracking the role of the 10 Commandments in America from 1776, 2.5 million people. 90% of Americans believed in the 10 Commandments. And I go through every 100 years and show the decline in the acceptance as good principles for life in the 10 Commandments, and the increase in the human nature let loose in a culture, and the devastating moral effects from that. So the law is a school teacher for sure. Our organization, the United West, we have 4 objectives: defend the Constitution, defend the state of Israel, defeat Islam, and defeat Karl Marx. And we've all gotten a lot of trouble for not qualifying Islam. Tom, you shouldn't say defeat Islam. You should say defeat the Islamistic type of Islamic jihadist who follow Islam, or some nonsense like that. I say, wait a minute, I'm an expert in this stuff, in the theology of Islam, in the concept of all of this. Why do we tell the scholars and the theologians of Islam what they should believe Why don't we trust them for telling us what they believe, and we recognize what they believe? If we recognize what Islam doctrine and Islamic scholars teach, we must defeat Islam. It's that simple. Now, I make a distinction between a human being, who has the image of God, who is caught up in this death cult of Islam, and the system of Islam. So we critique the system while loving the individual, the Muslims, and trying to get them out of that nonsense if possible. And we have one with us today that'll tell you that story a little later. So that's our work. We chase bad guys, government lies, and Muslim spies. Kind of goes in there. Oh, who's that guy? In 2011, we were called the Florida Security Council. We had a name change, and we had it at Mar-a-Lago. I'm in the back of the room like this, watching everything, a couple hundred people. And this guy taps me on the shoulder and says, "Hey, what's going on here?" And I turn around, it's that guy. I go, "We're having an event here in your club." "Oh," he goes, "you want me to speak?" I said, "I don't know." He goes, "What are you talking about?" I said, "Yeah, you could speak. Come on." I said, "Oh, hold on." Oh, Frank Gaffney was the moderator. I said, "Frank, hang on. I got some guy that wants to speak here." But he had no intention of running, but he told us about China, about all this stuff. Fascinating guy. I did not vote for him to be I'm a theologian by training, a Christian evangelical theologian. I didn't vote for him to be my pastor or my spiritual leader. We needed a ball-busting New York blue-collar guy to come in and shake things up. That's that guy. He's doing a damn good job, too. We could have had President. We could have had her. I have nightmares of this picture. Can you imagine what the world would have been like? I mean, it's sad. I have kids, I have grandkids. If these people were running the show, we would be, oh God, oh thank you God, thank you God. You mentioned the book. I'm one of the authors of a pretty cool book. We're going to Israel again in May 2020. We'll have some paperwork for you to take a look at. We've joined with the Jexit ladies. These are Jewish women who are having a movement for Democrats to leave the Democrat Party and become something else. By the way, if you get nothing out of today, never use the word democratic for the Democrat Party, okay? It's the Democrats. There's nothing democratic about them. And then we got a bunch of experts. Trevor's in there. Hey, there's Trevor over there. He's coming with us. John Guandolo, Claire, Philip Haney, Laura Loomer. So that's the team next year with the Jexit girls. Last year, that's the owner of our tour company. Ronnie and I and Janine Pirro were invited by the White House to be at the ceremony where the embassy was moved from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. Another memorable moment in my life. That was amazing. There's Janine. Pray for her. She's having some rough time. Fox is really limiting what she can do. And, promises made, promises kept, the Jerusalem Post. Since 1995, not one president had the guts to do this. The world's going to fall apart. The Muslims are going to go insane. It's going to be crazy. Trump said, "I'm doing it, man." It's that simple. His staff didn't want him to do it, most of them. I'm doing it. He did it. It's amazing. You must project strength to bullies and the enemy. That's exactly what this did. And the Israelis can handle themselves. Speaking of Israel, there's the map, the tiny little country of Israel, right up there, right over there, somewhere in there. Very, very small. But the next map is very interesting. That's the Arab world around Israel. Israel's the blue little thing there. And the problem with the world today, the problem with the UN, the problem with the European Union, the problem with the economy, the problem with politics is that Israel needs to give more land to the Arabs, to the Muslims. That's the problem. Surrounded by 330 million people that want to destroy them. But the problem is Israel has to give up more land, then there'll be peace. Complete, absolute nonsense. This is a good map to understand the geopolitical significance from a national security perspective of the small country of Israel. And you could see on the bottom left, you see Gaza, and we take it right up to the front, to the border of Gaza. And then the West Bank, Judea Samaria is the real name, but it's the West Bank of the Jordan River. If you look at the Dead Sea down there, the big blue thing, and that skinny line going up to the Sea of Galilee, Jesus operated at the Sea of Galilee from about 10 o'clock to 2 o'clock. If you make the north point 12 o'clock, from 10 o'clock to 2 o'clock was all of Jesus' ministry over 3 years, except a couple of trips down to Jerusalem, about 70 miles away. And the West Bank, Arab area, and then the Golan up in Syria that Trump just said, you know what? Israel, you own the Golan. It's yours. Amazing development. Well, the Arab population in Israel, geopolitical facts that lay out national security significance. Gaza has about 2 million Arab Muslims. There's about 3 Christians or so hiding somewhere in Gaza. On the West Bank of the Jordan River, Judea, Samaria, another 2 million Arab Muslims. In Israel proper, another 2 million Arab Muslims. There are 6 million Arab Muslims in that land. Out of Israel proper, those 2 million, some of them have Arab-Israeli citizenship. So, tremendous significance and implications if Israel were to say, you know what, everybody who lives here, because you lived here, you're going to have a vote in whatever you want. Israel would be voted out of existence the next day. The Jewish population in Israel is 7 million. So there's 6 million Arabs, 7 million Jews. In the U.S., 7 million, and then there's 1 million Jews spread worldwide. There's about 80 or 100 left in Egypt with 80 million people. Jews are being thrown out of virtually every country in the world right now. We live in a state with how many people? This state, how many people? 20 million people. It's 5 million people more, I think they're all over here somewhere, than in all of the Jews in all of the world. And it's interesting. God in his economy and his infinite wisdom, this is really reflected in the story of Gideon. On this last trip, I took the Sorbos on a Christian mission, not a national security. And I spoke at the water area where Gideon was preparing to fight the Midianites. And Gideon had 33,000 against 132,000. And God said, no, you got too many. You got too many. Cut it down at 10,000. Gideon says, all right, I got 10,000 against 130. Nah, if that happens, you're going to think your great army is the reason for your victory. Cut them down some more. Let them go drink the water. I want to figure it out how they drink the water. You know the story. 300 people. 300. So God said, you got 300 people. And now, if there's victory, you'll realize I'm providing the victory, not you. And that provides the precedent for how you live after the victory, how you construct your life after the victory. Because God brought you through that. He'll sustain you through building a culture. That's what happened back then.
People often say to us, the United West, and the people in this counter-jihad movement, Tom, there's a bunch of senior citizens, older folks that are in the audiences where you speak. I said, yeah, you know what? That's the army that God gave us, and that's the army that we will lead to victory. Amen. Because the strength is in God. All right. Do not try to figure out the political system in Israel, okay? It's impossible to figure out, but this is it right now, today. The blue and white party, look, the story is if you got two Jews in the same room, you got three opinions, okay? Blue and white is made up of two phenomenal combat generals. Benny Gantz, who's the head of the IDF, the head of all the military for many years, and Bogi Olana, Air Force general, phenomenal war legends in Israel. They got pissed off at Netanyahu. They had a fight. They don't like him anymore. So they formed their own party 6 months ago. And they said, Bibi, you're driving us crazy. They all worked together. They got mad. They formed the blue and white, colors of the flag, party. And one thing led to another. They have more seats right now in the Knesset than Netanyahu does. There's 120 seats in the Knesset. There's the Knesset, and when we go on these trips, we take you there. And in order to have a majority, how many do you need? 61. Well, right now, blue and white has 33. That's Benny Gantz and Bogi Yolan, who are mad at Netanyahu. Likud 31 is Netanyahu. So he's too short. But if you add those together, you come up with 64. But they both said, actually, blue and white said to Netanyahu, we ain't working with you. You're under indictment. You're doing all this. You've been there 100 years. We're not working with you. And they ran on that. So now they're in a quandary. Because now they got to look at these other parties, like the Green Party in the bottom left, which is the joint list. How many people there? 12 or 13. Know what the joint list is? Muslim. The joint list of Muslims. These are Arabs who are anti-Israel, who got elected by the Arabs who live in Israel. They work to destroy the state. They now have become a determining factor in the future of Israel in order to make that 61 seats. And the world is condemning Israel for apartheid and all this. Arabs are the third largest party there. You know, the ultra-Orthodox, all kinds of craziness going on there because they want no buses, no schools, and close everything down and all of this. And blue and white are more secular, saying that's not going to happen. It is a mess right now. Possibly there's going to be what's called a unity government between blue and white and Likud. They're going to have to get together for the sake of the country and split the prime ministership. So Benny Gantz is the prime minister for a year, then Netanyahu, then another guy. I mean, not the way to really run a government. But rest assured, we're very tied into what goes on over there with all levels. If Hamas throws a stone or Hezbollah moves an inch, all of Israel, except the Arab list, all of Israel, all the parties join together and say, okay, we hate each other, but we're united as nationalists to fight our enemy. And that will happen. So that's a very positive that's happened all through these years. How does Israel die? My talk is the death of Israel, the death of the West. How do you really kill Israel? Something that God has put together here. Well, here's how. You go after their economic basis. Yeah, the boycott, divestment, sanctions. You boycott their goods. You have the state of Florida divest any of its pension money that it puts into pension funds and stock market and all of this. You divest, take it out of there, nothing related to Israel. Which is kind of interesting because you're going to have to move it out of all kinds of technology and medicine and advancement and military stuff and all the areas that generate revenue. So you cut off your nose to spite your face. So divest out, thank God, through Rick Scott and DeSantis, they have rejected the divestment movie in the state of Florida by statute, which is amazing. And then you sanction Israel. No, you can't. They can't do this. You can't go that. You can't travel there. Right now, though, how many people have been to Israel? When you go and you give them your passport, you come to passport control. The guy stamps it, right?
No.
Wrong. It doesn't get stamped. What happens? That thing all the way back? Yeah. What happens? You get a little card that says, oh, you come to Israel, but don't tell any Arab countries or they won't let you in. They don't stamp the passport because if you went to an Arab country and they knew that you were in Israel, they may not let you in. They will not let a Jewish person in for sure. They may not let you in. So you got to keep that card with you. It's a pain in the neck, but that's how it works. Boycott, divestment, sanctions. Here's the boycott movement all over college campuses. BDS, end the occupation. The Jews are occupying, now get this is very important, listen. The Jews are occupying Judea. Okay? It's been called Judea for about 5,000 years. And the people that live there have been called Jews, Hebrews, Jews. And the Jews are occupying Judea. Why? Because Islamic doctrine teaches that at any point that Islam controlled property, it was approved and endorsed and granted by Allah to control that. Because one of the doctrines of Islam is world domination through world control of geography that Allah blesses you with. Andalusia, Spain. Osama bin Laden wanted Andalusia, Spain back because Muslims controlled it at one point. The caliphate is designed to spread out and control dirt. At one point, Muslims controlled Judea, Samaria, which means they always control it. Anybody else in it at a later point is an occupier. That's their theological position. From a geopolitical or Western concept, you can't occupy something you own. That's you. The other people improperly had it. But these are the battles over words. Another way to kill Israel is through an intifada. Technical term, to shake off. To shake off the Israelis from the land that was given to them by God. Low grade, both of these are very low grade. They're to chip away at the economic vitality and to scare people from going to Israel as tourists. Right now, you can't move in Israel virtually any time of the year with all the tourist buses all over the place. The economy is booming. You know where most of the tourists are coming from? Where do you think they're coming from?
United States.
No, not the United States. A lot from the United States, but from Asia, from China and Japan. You walk around, you see all these Chinese people running all over the, well, Christians. There are Christian missions coming on pilgrimages from the East. It's amazing. And Africa. Our special guest can tell you about the movement from Africa people. He went 1,000,000 times back and forth to Israel from Africa. We had two intifadas, 87 and 93. And an intifada is you go, you get the kids and you start blowing things up and blowing up buses and throwing rocks and just creating havoc, creating chaos, fadna. Another way to kill Israel is blow the damn place up and get rid of it. Two-bomb state. One in Jerusalem, one in Tel Aviv. Goodbye, Jews. Problem solved. You think there are any jihadis that if you can give them a suitcase nuke, a backpack nuke, that they would love to bring it into Tel Aviv or in Jerusalem? I mean, because in a declared holy war, the epitome of honoring Allah is to give your life in the cause of destroying Jews and Christians primarily. So the motive to nuke Israel exists in the Islamic world and in Islamic countries. The means exists in some countries. The opportunity, motive, means, opportunity, has not come together quite yet. Another way to take out Israel is electromagnetic pulse bomb. That's over Jerusalem. That's the blackout area. And look, countries like Iran have done their apocalyptic nuclear calculus. They said if we hit Israel and wipe it out, and Israel responds and hits us, and we lose 20 million of our 80 million people, those 20 million are automatically translated into paradise. That's not bad. We have gotten rid of the Zionist Jews, and now we march into Israel, and we control, and then we go into Saudi Arabia, and we take the 2 holy cities. That's Iran's geopolitical plan. But they got a little problem. Where is that? Anybody know where that is? Masada. That's the top of Masada. And the soldiers go up there now and say, never again. Never again will we let anyone control or defeat us. That's a phenomenon. We take everybody to that flag every year. Take a picture there. That's the Dead Sea in the background. Who's that? Biblical character. Anybody heard of the Samson doctrine? Yeah, Israel's Samson doctrine. They have a multi-layered defensive. Some people have said they have nuclear capability. I can't tell you one way or the other. They may not. But if they do, and they have other weapons too, they have a multi-layered capability in air, land, and sea to respond to whomever hits them under the concept that just as Samson pulled the pillars down and destroyed all the enemy, the Philistines, and himself in that, if we're going down, we're taking a whole hell of a lot of people out with us. And they have a submarine force, they have a phenomenal air force, they have an intelligence capability that probably in some of the target countries have munitions that just need to be engaged at the right time. They're not going out without noise if they go out. But they have a tremendous preventative system of intelligence and other military and geopolitical capabilities. But let's just make believe for a few moments that the Jews took up the invitation of the UN and all this for many years. Why don't you go to Uganda? Was one of the places. Let's just say they all wanted to leave. You know, they got on a boat like that, and they went to Hawaii. 7 million Jews. We're out of here. You know, we're going to Hawaii. We got our own little island there, and they took off. Let's make believe that they decided on their own to take off. What is day 2? What does day 2 look like in Israel? Day 1, they're gone. Day 2. Well, a Muslim tsunami. Inshallah, as Allah wills. Lebanon from the north. Oh my God, let's go south. We're in there. Syria from the east. Go. Jordan from the east. We're the Turkey. Erdogan wants to be the caliphate. Israel is ours now. They're in there. Russia's going to go, oh, this is interesting. Technology and productivity. We're going there too. Egypt from the south. Oh, this is ours. We're going there too. Oh, Hamas. Finally, Allah. We're going there. Hezbollah from the north. You're going to have a wild Middle East, and you're going to have Muslims chopping each other's heads off, blowing each other up, trying to accumulate all the wealth and capabilities. Happened in Gaza, actually. And answer this question. When one Muslim force attacks and kills another Muslim force, which force are the Islamophobes? Think of that. More Muslims die from the hands of Muslims, so they're Muslim Islamophobes, whatever. What will the West do? The United Nations. What's the United Nations going to do? The United Nothing is what their name is. The United Nothing. What about the European Union? What's the guy in France? I forgot his name. Macron. No. Oh, I will come into Israel and I will stop all the trouble. You know, he's a little flea. They're going to flick him away. Canada. What a pussy that guy is. I mean, are you kidding me? I'm so sorry. In a party, a costume party, I put on a costume. I'm sorry. You know, on and on. What is he going to do when The Middle East is on flames. Mexico, they're going to come to the aid. New Zealand, hey Trevor, New Zealand going to run in the middle of a wild, wild west. Australia, no, it falls to us. We cannot let uncontrolled chaos occur on a regular basis in such a geopolitically critically important national security section of the globe. We can't. We must respond. If not, the oil's done. Iran goes to Saudi Arabia, they fight, oil's gone, we're paying $20 a gallon. I mean, it goes on and on and on. We have to go there and take the place of 7 million Jews who love their country, want to be there, and are willing to fight. Protecting that. Look at what has to happen. We need, on the Med, we're going to have the 9th and 10th and 11th Fleet, because there's still going to be trouble elsewhere. We're going to have to build up a tremendous sea capability. We're going to have 2, 3, 4, 500,000 troops there, because there's going to be daily attacks from the armies of these countries to get rid of the United States, because Allah gave this to us for 5 minutes, and the evil big Satan came, and they're taking over now. Constant attacks. There's going to be devastation. Thousands of people a day dying if we go in there and try to protect. If we leave it alone, the West is done. If we go in, it's going to be apocalyptic. Facts. Israel gives back to the United States far more than it receives. The U.S. gains far more from military aid to Israel than any other country. Watch this from my friend Barry Shaw in Israel, an analyst. 3.8 billion every year we give to Israel. Israel's required to buy our gear. 3.3 of that has to be paid back to the United States. That goes in the pockets of the workers and all of that to buy U.S. goods. $500 million of that is paid back for dual research and development on the Iron Dome systems. So 3.8 million goes back to the United States to help develop the economy. What does the United States get? Battlefield tested F-35s are in battle right now, doing phenomenal work. Oh, when you hear bombing in Iraq, nobody knows where it came from. Bombing in Syria, nobody knows where. Those are, I don't know for sure, but they're probably F-35s that can't be seen that are going in and blowing bad stuff up. Very good chance that's happening. The R&D of this equipment being tested by the Israelis every day. Laser devices are being developed right now to shoot down these small drones. An Iron Dome bullet costs about $50,000 to shoot down a little balloon or whatever. They're developing laser capability to shoot and shoot down little tiny drones. The intelligence development, global sales, American jobs, from the money that's given to Israel, 3.8 billion. No American soldiers. Israelis are doing all the fighting. Compare this to Afghanistan, $5 billion a year. Minimum. We spent $1 trillion there, but $5 billion. South Korea right now, 30,000 troops, $8 billion a year. Japan, we got 50,000 troops, $15 billion a year in Japan. Europe, what are we doing? Well, are the Soviets really going to run their tanks over Germany right now? You know, we got $5 billion. These have become cushy. You go to Germany, Dr. Rich Swire. Back there, Rich, stand up for a minute. Rich in '72 was at the Olympics as a young officer and was called to duty to come and provide protection of the Olympic camp when the Palestinians killed the Jewish athletes. He was there at that time, went on to work in the Reagan administration, developing the doctrine that we don't deal with terrorists. Dr. Rich Swire, Lieutenant Colonel Rich Swire, retired Army.
By the way, when I was there was another group called the Red Brigade.
Red Brigade.
Fighting Minehawk Band.
Yep, bad people.
Guess who trained Black September and the Biden Minehawk Band? Who gave them military training?
Russians.
Palestinian Islamic Jihad.
Yep, the Russians. It's $5 billion a year over there. Italy, got troops in Italy. Oh, more. Let's have some macaroni and some wine. Come on. And then 3.8 billion in Israel, where really it's necessary. We should triple, we should quadruple that to not have to go there and fight it. Plus, we spend $81 billion a year protecting other countries, like look what we're doing in Saudi Arabia right now. Oil protection. So when you hear people say, oh, too much money in Israel, that's Jew hatred. That's all that is. That's anti-Semitism. What happens in Israel happens to the West. What about Florida? We made that a little poster, and it's an exact replica of what's going to happen in the next 409 days. What's 409 days? What are we talking about? The election, 409 days. Look, on 410, look at me carefully. 410, we're either going to be like this, or we're going to be like this. 410 days from today, we're going to be in one of those emotions. Can you believe it? We need to work like hell for 409 days to get over here and celebrate. Wasn't that a great feeling? On November 6, 2016, that was phenomenal. But look, we have Andrew Gillum, who is a Marxist. And you heard Kirk, you're going to hear Trevor. We have Ilhan Omar, Muslim Brotherhood operative, unbelievable, going after Trump in Florida, the most strategic state in the Union, for holding the globe together on national security. Andrew Gillum aims to evict Donald Trump, the registration to flip Florida blue. This is in October. Ilhan Omar is speaking in Fort Lauderdale for CARE, terrorist organization. They're not waiting 400 days. They're now attacking our state. That's the battle. The battle is Karl Marx, and that's not Muhammad, but it's Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi, the former head of the caliphate, kind of on the run right now. But that's the battle that we're facing, this red-green axis. The green of Islam joining with the communist movement to fight against Jews and Christians. Good against evil, as clear as it could be. Here's threats coming our way. There's going to be a First Amendment threat, Second Amendment threat in this state. Immigration, refugee resettlement, border wall system. Is Ruth Bader Ginsburg still alive? Is she really alive? Does anybody see an EKG or anything to indicate she's alive? I don't think she's going to be around the next 4 years. Alive, let me put it that way. Maybe Bernie's, the weekend of Bernie's. Another Supreme Court justice, proper one, ensures a federal judicial system that's holding to a Judeo-Christian worldview. If nothing else, we need to fight like crazy. Homeland security, national security, Islam, Israel, big issues in the election. It's official. Clinton swamps Trump in popular vote. 66 to 63 million. Trump lost the popular vote, won the Electoral College. This is more frightening. Last year, 8.4 million votes. They each got 4.2. Ron won by 31,000 votes against a communist. And we do a big thing on Andrew Gillum. He's a doctrinaire communist. The problem, and Kirk earlier laid this out beautifully, the problem with Christianity is 1 million Christians in the state, minimum, do not vote. Here's the numbers. Watch this. 20 million population, 16 million people of voting age, 18 or over, 13 million registered. 3 million people of voting age aren't registered. 80%, according to the 2010 census, of the state are Christians. So 80% of 3 million, over 2 million Christians are not registered. 13 million registered voters, 80% of the voting age. 12 million voting age Christians, 75% of the voting age. I'm going through this quickly, but you can see it in the videotape. The Jewish population in the state of Florida is 700,000. Muslim population is 200. The problem is 75% of Jewish people vote where? Democrat. It's not that big of a number. It's a big number when you're talking about razor-thin margins. But the problem is the Jewish leftist community is writing gigantic checks to Andrew Gillum and all of his friends. They're helping fund the left's movement, the Marxist movement, being funded. Why do they do that? It's a great question. You go to Israel, it's the complete opposite. 90% of the people, Trump would get elected king tomorrow if he went to Israel. And there's 10% lefties there. You're always going to have crazy people. Christian problem. In 2016, 9.3 million votes cast. Clinton got 4.4 million. Trump got 4.1. 119,770. Razor thin over 9.5 million. We have 9 million potential evangelical Protestant voters, 3 million Catholic Christian voters, 3 million evangelical Christian voters who actually are voting. So we're missing about 6 million evangelicals, and we got about a million Catholics who are not voting. At least 7 million people that check a box on their census, Christian, are not voting in this state. 1 million Christians don't vote. That's a conservative estimate. Andrew Gillum is running a campaign to bring in 1 million new Democrat voters. We have a showdown. Summary. Makes no sense in Florida to chase all these special interest groups and left of center. And, we have a group over here. They're half Mexican, half Italian. There's 14 of them. Let's go over there and get them over to our side. It makes no sense going after these kinds of groups when you got this low-hanging fruit of Christians who will agree to the principles of the Republican Party more so than the Democrat Party, and who will be Zionists. They understand the importance of Israel theologically. I haven't even mentioned anything about the theological necessity of supporting Israel. I'm just talking about national security today. That's another conversation. But Christians sense and understand the theological reason to support Israel. That's why we need to go after that. Take action. That's the magic number. I want you to go away understanding this number. Gillum drives to negotiate 1 million new voters to help serve Trump eviction notice in 2020. That's his campaign, 1 million new voters. Flip Florida blue is his motto. As we know, 1.6 million felons got voting rights in 2018. Probably, realistically, 200,000 or 300,000 are going to be voting Democrat at the end of the day. Trump won by 120,000. We're down today 200,000 votes. We lose. Elections today, we lose. That's simple. So what are we going to do? We got to get to 1,000,001. Okay? We got to get to 1,000,001. This is a math problem. 409 days, we got a gigantic math problem. We need to get one more, or 536, remember that, 2000? 536 more than the other guy. Bush beat Al Gore, state of Florida, determined the presidency. We need one vote more. That's our campaign, the United West. We have a campaign. If you're interested, you can see Barry, Mark, or myself as to what we're going to be doing. We're going to use our television studio and try to organize existing groups to maximize their capabilities and unify all the believing patriots in the state and create this army, a moral army that's fighting for good. That's a great thing, ain't it? Thank you, everybody. I'll see you around.